Good evening, everyone out there on YouTube. Welcome to another episode of Georgie's Stripping the Dipping, live tonight on YouTube. I'm Colin Johnston. So hello to everyone who's watching live and everybody watching on catch up. Great to have you on board. If you're watching live, be sure to send us a message tonight. It's always good to see me messages come up, and if you have any questions, give us a shout. Our guest tonight was a guest with the guys quite a long time ago, so it's great to have her back for a catch up and see what's happening. So please join me in welcoming tonight Sabre Cook. Sabre, how are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm great. I'm super. Where are you coming to us from today? Yet home in the States?
Yeah, I'm in Indianapolis right now.
Oh, here. No better place to be, especially if you're a racing driver, hey? Yeah.
Yeah.
The center of all the action.
Well, I guess one of them.
And what's your week been looking like? What, are you up to anything special, or just another week of preparation towards racing?
Yeah, this week we have a bit of time for just training and prepping for the next race. We had our last race 2 weeks or a week and a half ago now. So yeah, just getting ready for our next one that's at the end of July, beginning of August, and working on all the partnerships, all the sponsorships, training, everything that goes on behind the scenes, so we can keep racing.
Yep, all the stuff that keeps it going. Yeah, and we'll get to that. It's the Carrera Cup you're in at the minute. Yep. Mm-hmm. Cool. Well, here, for anybody who didn't catch it before on the podcast, I suppose we should maybe wind back a wee bit and find out a bit more about you and how you got started. So I guess you're a racing driver. You're always going to say you're a racing driver, but if you met somebody at a party and you're introducing yourself, how would you introduce yourself?
Hi, my name is Sabre. That's all I would know.
Yeah, cool.
Normally I don't start off with my profession.
Oh, well, yeah. Well, I probably would if I was a racing driver, to be fair.
Yeah, no, I definitely don't bring it up unless people start asking. But yeah, I'm a professional racing driver as well as a mechanical engineer. I do a lot of media and driver coaching as well. I started in karting just before I was 8 years old. I did all the Road to Indy, W Series, raced like on the Nordschleife, done MX5 race, Porsche Sprint Challenge race, and now I'm full-time in Porsche Carrera Cup for last year and as well as this year in 2024. And I have a mechanical engineering degree that I got at the end of 2017. I've worked for a few teams, mostly worked for Infiniti Global, Nissan, Renault F1 team, which is now Alpine. Worked for Prada Autosport and Ed Carpenter Racing in IndyCar, Formula Mazda as like a design engineer. And yeah, just a little bit of all the things here and there. Done some commentating and stuff like that whenever I get asked to do it. So that's like a very quick overview of my career so far.
That's pretty cool. And it's a hell of a CV. It's quite something. It's got a bit of everything there racing wise. How did it start off for you? I believe your parents were involved in motocross, a biking family.
Yeah, my dad was a professional motocross and supercross rider, and so he and my mom did not want me racing motorcycles. So I got into go-karts. My dad found karting after he'd retired from motorcycles. So
that's a tough business. Motocross and supercross is tough racing.
Yeah, especially I feel like now they make a lot more, like they make really good money and there's a lot of exposure behind it. And the bike and the technology is a lot better than what it used to be. But back in like the 80s when my dad was racing, it was not the spectacle that it is now. It's very hard on your body. And I appreciate them pushing me away from that avenue.
Yeah. Well, I know a little being in Northern Ireland and the road racing culture with motorbikes here. Yeah. I know a little back in that day as to there was people were professional in their outlook, but it was ordinary guys, spending their own time and their own money with a real passion for racing, and the professional guys of today reap the benefits of the generation like your dad who put in the hard yards and built the sport.
Yeah, it's been pretty cool to see all of the stories that surface, I guess, about his time when he was racing. And I feel like I'm always learning more and learning new things about how it was back then, and just really admire what him and all the other riders went through. And and the crazy stories that they tell. It's definitely not like that today.
So he got involved a wee bit himself in karting, and then brought you on board with the karts as well.
Yeah, he obviously is adrenaline junkie, so he needed something else, I think, to keep racing, and so he found go-karts. He started like right away, I think, in the shifter karts, to be honest. And so he obviously his background in motocross, he did very well in the karting stuff. And then he and my uncle, my grandpa, and an investor decided it was a really good idea to start a karting track in my hometown. So they ended up building that in 2001, and the track's still there. They don't run the business anymore, but it is still out there, and I think it's still one of the most fun tracks in North America.
Excellent. Well, it sounds like the Schumacher family, actually, doesn't it? It sounds like the same sort of upbringing, family kart track. Born to race.
Yeah, I guess maybe a little.
So I guess you enjoyed it straight away. I guess you enjoyed that thrill of controlling the cart.
Yeah, I was pretty excited the first time my dad he sat me on his lap, actually, and drove me around in a parking lot in his cart. And then eventually he gave my brother and I our own, which was really very cool. And I was so excited, but I also didn't understand that you had to slow down to take the corners. So I just remember spinning out the first time I got in the cart, and then that honestly scared me, and I drove pretty slow for like the next year and a half, and then I decided I didn't like losing anymore, and, and took it a little bit.
Especially to your brother, sibling rivalry and all that.
I guess like maybe there was a little bit of a sibling rivalry, but not really, honestly. Like we were slightly different enough in age that once then I would always move up before he did, because I was the older sister, so we didn't really have that as much. And then he didn't stay in karting for very long. He got out of it maybe when he was, I want to say maybe 13 or something was his last race. So he works in IT now, and he loves that space, and he's more like into reading and like video games and cats. And,
so it's a good balance.
Yeah, so he's like quite a lot different, and he actually doesn't drive if he doesn't have to. He prefers not to drive on the street.
Got it out of his system early.
Yeah.
And he studied, he's gone on to do IT or whatever. And obviously, alongside your racing and getting started with the karting and all, you've gone on and studied engineering. Did that come off the back of motorsport, or do you think you would have done that if you hadn't ever raced karts?
Yeah, I think I would have done engineering regardless. I was always a kid that liked school, liked math and science specifically. So it was pretty authentic just to kind of go towards the engineering path. Definitely growing up around motorsports, and then being able to have access to a kart track and tinker with stuff, that was a ground that fostered my love of engineering and finding solutions. So I think that it definitely helped push me that way, but I was already kind of, I think, headed in that direction regardless.
And you've had very much a parallel career, certainly over a few years, with the engineering side of things and the professional racing driving as well. What's the mix now? Do you have any involvement really in the engineering side of your life, or is that just set aside at the moment while you focus on the professional race driving?
So I was more working as an engineer from like 2018 to through the end of 2022. But since last year, I actually haven't done any real big projects or anything. I've just been focusing on the racing because I'm very busy with that at the moment, and I'm very lucky to be able to say that. So I'm full focus on that right now, and the engineering is kind of tucked to the side a little bit. I try to use it when I can, but I miss being in situations like that where I get to innovate and come up with solutions. But now I just do that in different ways. So it's I miss it, and I'll definitely come back to it. But yeah, right now racing is the focus.
Very good, very good. Well, let's jump forward to the racing that you're doing at the minute, because it is so exciting. You're involved with the Porsche Carrera Cup in the United States, which I'm sure anybody who's watching this podcast is aware of the Porsche Carrera Cup all around the world and how fantastic racing it is. We'll jump forward. How did you become involved with Porsche and get into the Carrera Cup?
So after W Series, so I had a pretty big injury in the last year of W Series and tried to race throughout the season, and it was not an enjoyable experience. But then after that, I had to come back to the States and had all the surgeries, the pit stops, and everything that changed out the bad parts and got me going again. So during that time when I was actually engineering more and going through the recovery for that, Porsche and Kelly Moss, I got connected to them, and they saw that I was trying to run in the Carrera Cup. And so Porsche's like, how can we help? How can we make this happen? You know, we obviously would love to grow our female presence in the series. So then there was the scholarship that got created with Deluxe and Kelly Moss, and there was a shootout at the end of 2022. And I won the shootout, which means it secured me most of the funding to race in Carrera Cup for 2023. And then raced the majority of the series in 2023. But I had another very big crash where I got T-boned by another car that lost control. And they hit me, unfortunately, and I was not allowed to race the last 2 races of the season just because of the concussion. But the good news is I'm all good to go again, and I'm racing back again in the Carrera Cup with MDK Motorsports. And yeah, we're looking good. We've had a really strong program this year, lots of top 10s, and one of my teammates got a win here and there. Another one got a win as well. So we're looking strong, and it's been a great time so far.
Great. Those have got to be fun cars. What are they about? Are they about 500 brake horsepower or something like that?
These 510. Yeah, 510.
And they're pretty light, aren't they? Like under 1,500 kilos, aren't they? They're pretty light.
2,900 pounds. So
in old money, yeah.
Yeah, that's like 17.
Thereabouts, yeah.
Ish. No, that's 13. It's like 1,300. Right?
Yeah, that's probably about right. Yeah, in European. Yeah. Cool. That must be a great car. And obviously, by the construction and nature of the car, it must be a great car to hustle. It must be a great car to race.
It is a different kind of car to race, that's for sure. It's different than anything else I'd ever driven, and the rear engine is definitely a different animal sometimes, and you just getting used to that, and then getting used to the way that the aero of the car actually works. It's like in other sports cars I feel like that I've driven, you can get quite a big draft, but when you're in a pack of the Carrera Cup cars, it is actually really hard to get a draft down the straightaway. So it's an interesting thing to be able to race in, but it's really fun, it's really challenging, and I've really enjoyed it so far.
Great stuff. And of course, being associated now with Porsche, fingers crossed it'll open so many doors for you, because they're involved in so many different programs internationally. I'm sure you want to continue with Porsche as long as you can in that association.
Yeah, it's been a really great situation for me. Porsche has been a fantastic ally, not just on the motorsports side, but on the road car side as well. Porsche USA regularly involves me in media, and we've done a couple commercials and stuff. So it's been pretty incredible experience for me, and I really appreciate all of their love and support and welcoming me to the space. And it's been an awesome situation to be a part of. So I'm really grateful to them.
Brilliant. And do you think you're, I was going to say, is your time in open wheel racing past, but do you think your focus would be more on sports car style racing going forward? Or do you still hanker after, is there still sort of single seaters in the background saying, have another go?
I would love to do the single seaters again at some point, but It's incredibly expensive.
Yeah,
So all of it is expensive. But
yeah,
the sports car side of things, I think, has a lot of opportunities. Racing in IMSA is something that I'm really focused on doing, and moving up the ladder in the WeatherTech series. And Porsche is obviously heavily involved in that, as well as WEC. So I think there's a lot of opportunities there,
yeah.
but I am a driver that will drive anything. So if something comes up, I am not opposed. I just drove actually a super late model a couple months ago as well. So
Mhm.
I'm open to kind of on anything, honestly.
Yep. Anything with wheels, you're set. Hab helmet will travel.
Yes, exactly.
And you mentioned it in passing, and I saw it on your CV as well. You had a class win at the Nürburgring.
Mhm.
How did you find the Nordschleife? You know,
It was incredible. Yeah, I had a great experience there. It's a funny track because the first time you do it, I feel like you are like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna die. And then it's fine. But
I've
yeah,
been
the
giving
first
people that
time,
feeling for 100 years now. You aren't alone in that. I think everybody who approaches it's like,
yeah, the first time, I feel like the first session after because you have to go through and get your permit and your license,
mm,
and they very much like bring you up to pace and everything, right? But
yeah,
behind the instructors. So after you're released from that and you get to actually go out and do like a full flying fast session by yourself, you're like, "Ooh, okay." But
alone in the
after it,
forest.
yeah, and then you have a sleep on it, and then the next day you're like, all right, I'm fine, I'm good to go. But that
Yeah.
definitely that first time you're like, all right, I'm on high alert.
What were you racing in that event? Which car were you on?
M2.
All right. Okay. Yes. A nice weapon for those roads. Yeah. Sounds
Yeah,
cool.
it was fun. I was like, I actually couldn't believe like how fast I was going in it. Sometimes I'm like, this is just insane.
Brilliant, brilliant. Well, we've touched on your single seaters. You started about 17 years of age. You made the switch from karts into cars, and found your way from there.
No, actually, my first
Yeah.
car race wasn't until I was almost 23 years old. So
Ah,
I karted for a long time and just never had enough sponsorship and funding to go to cars. And then a sponsor that is still with me today, they came and watched me at a go-kart race in 2016, and they're like, all right, let's do this, let's put you in a car. So then they put me in my very first car race in like an amateur SCCA event at Summit Point in Pennsylvania in 2017. So that was my first race in April of 2017, and then just did amateur SCCA stuff that year, and then tried to put a program together to do a hobble of a random one-off like USF4 and a couple like USF 2000 races. And then I was fortunate that I got the chance to qualify for W Series at the same time that I also had moved to England for engineering work. So that was a nice merriment of the two.
and I guess you sort of half joke about the different races and different cars, whatever. I suppose those different experiences are great experience. And I suppose that when you were getting ready then to jump into W Series, I know they give a lot of support, but you also had a lot of experience of different sorts of single seaters and jumping in and making the best of things in different races.
Yeah, I think that I want to say that it was obviously great that I did have experience in I think it was like two or three different kinds of single seaters at that point when I went to W Series, but mine were always like one-off races. I'd never done a full season in anything until that point. So W Series really gave me the chance to do a full championship in a single seater. So that was an incredible experience and just kind of a consistency that I needed. So that was yeah, that was definitely very beneficial to have that full season in W Series in 2019.
Very good. I looking back on it now, what do you make of W Series? Obviously, it was a fantastic initiative and it did great things. Sadly, it hasn't survived. It has sort of spawned F1 Academy or whatever. But looking back on your time on it, I'm sure it made a change to your life. I'm sure there's plenty of fond memories there.
Yeah, there's a lot of fond memories. The first year, especially, was just so incredible. I think all of us drivers and staff and everybody were just so excited about the whole idea of it and the splash it was making, and how just incredible it was to be around so many like-minded other women drivers for the first time. You know, not a lot of us get to experience that, so it was a special place. It felt like you were all in it together, so it was really cool. I'm really grateful for what W Series was and the opportunities that it gave me. But at the end of the day, we're all focused on just racing against the best. So it's great for that development step and for bringing more brand awareness and recognition to all the drivers and other brands that are involved. Yeah. But it is important that we still get to go out and race at the top series with the equal amount of support as the male drivers.
Yeah, absolutely. But it's striking that balance, because at the time there was a lot of discussion to and fro, people who were very much for W Series and some people who were very much against it on some sort of principle. But I think striking that balance, as you say, raising awareness, showing potential partners what opportunities they are, is a good thing. But also then eventually, you know, women and men need to race together at the end of the day, at the top end of sport.
Yeah, exactly. For us drivers, it was an incredible experience that we couldn't turn down, right? Like we didn't have to bring any money. Everything was paid for, and we won prize money on top of that. So there's very few situations in the world that anybody can say that exists. So we were very lucky.
Exactly. Just looking at a couple of questions coming in, and our friend F1 Black has asked, do you see yourself better suited to being a sports car or a single-seater driver? That's an interesting one. Two different approaches, perhaps, to the, or going fast is just going fast.
I feel like the best drivers always learn to adapt regardless of what the car is. I would say up until last year, I was definitely more suited to single seaters, and I've had to learn a lot on the sports car side of things, being now full time in the Carrera Cup. So I hope that I have a nice combination now, and the goal is to always just, whatever I get in, I drive fast.
That's it. That's what it's all about, isn't it? At the end of the day. And actually, Blags asked another really good question. This one here: being an engineer and a racing driver, surely being a team owner is in your future. Well, maybe a few years away. You know, give it another. No.
Like, I do not. That is a whole new can of worms that I do not plan on opening. I do not envy the team owners. I would much rather be like working and focusing only on performance rather than people management. I think managing a team and being a good people manager is probably one of the hardest jobs in the world.
That's true. It's all the logistics and all the things that come with it. Yeah, as you say, it's almost simpler just to get in the car and drive. But then again, nowadays as well, you're talking about the preparation that you're doing as well. I guess even in a national championship, I have a very high-profile national championship like a Carrera Cup. I guess there is so much time in the simulator and time in the gym. You know, I'm sure life is dominated by your racing, really.
Yes, most of it is done. I would say I wish that it was an even split between focusing on just training and sponsorship, but I spend the majority of my time focused on partnerships and making sure that I can race, because without it, I cannot race or cannot afford to train or any of it. But yeah, I would say like a typical day like today, we have training in the morning, and then this whole middle part of my day is dealing with sponsorship, partnerships, anything that has to do with business. And then
people like us who you have to
interviews. And then here in like a couple hours, I have sim training for a couple hours where I'm working with someone else, and then another where I will drive myself. So it's, I guess, maybe 2/3. I hope to get it to be 75%. I would like that much better, but.
You say you're working with somebody else. You've done driver coaching, or you do driver coaching for other folks?
Yeah, I'll do in-person coaching, sim coaching. It just kind of depends on what the client wants, if they have a sim available to use.
Very good. I must be interesting as well, working with people with a different skill set, or on a different level, or a different path, part of the path of their journey. they always say you can learn something by teaching others. Do you find that to be the case?
Yeah, 100%. I think by coaching and teaching, it reminds me to even think about the basics when I'm reminding someone else, like, hey,
Yep.
think about it this way. And then I'm like, wait, I should take my own advice. I didn't exhaust this tool enough in my driving toolbox. So I think it's a really great thing that any driver should do, because it just, one, it gives back, and two, that makes you be more reflective on are you also thinking about those things when you're driving.
Yep. Yep. And what about, do you ever jump back in a cart these days for the fun? Do you ever revisit that, or to keep yourself sharp?
Sometimes I do still have the last my last national championship shifter cart. I still have that actually back home in Colorado. It's sitting in my dad's garage because I live in an apartment in Indianapolis, so we don't have anywhere to put it. But ideally, I would love to move it out here and get more seat time consistently. But I try to drive if I go back home to Colorado, where I'm from, and definitely jump in and do some indoor karting here and there if the opportunity presents itself. PitFit, where the driver training center here in Indianapolis, they do a thing called Kart Fit. So I've done that, I think maybe it's a couple times now. They have another one coming up soon where you do a workout and then you jump in the rental carts and you do a session, and then you get out, you do another workout, and you jump back into this to drive the carts again. So yeah, I try to as much as I can.
Great. It must be fantastic living in a town now like Indianapolis that is geared around motor racing. You know, I have a couple of friends who are involved with music and have gone and lived in Nashville for a while, and there's something about living in a hub like that with like-minded people and a society that's grown up around that really just it fuels you on. Everybody just drives off each other's energy.
Yeah, I think it's very beneficial to be a part of a community that understands what you're doing, what you're going through, what your goals are, what your day-to-day looks like. I think it's obviously, community is important in any industry, and especially racing, where maybe there's not as much known about it, and the average person maybe doesn't understand or be able to relate to the things that you're going through. It's really nice to have a community in Indianapolis that does.
Yeah, cool. And speaking about other motor racing, what do you like to watch? Do you watch much motor racing yourself, or which series do you enjoy following, if so?
Well, I'll be honest. I mean, I watched F1 like for years, but this season I haven't watched it as much. I did just watch the last race, but
that was worth watching at least.
Yeah, once I heard how exciting it was, I was like, okay, I'm gonna.
Yeah, better watch that one.
Yeah. But most of the time, I mean, I'll watch all the IMSA races that I'm not a part of. So try to rewatch like the 6 Hours of the Glen that we just had, and watching Le Mans. Well, as much of it as I could. I did not stay awake for 24 hours. And then I'll watch obviously IndyCar. That's we're in the center of it for that. Yeah. And sometimes I like to turn on some Supercross. That's always really fun to watch. But yeah, honestly, if there's something on that looks exciting or interesting, and I'll definitely turn it on, even if I'm working, and maybe I can have it on in the background.
Yep. And what about when you were watching motor racing as a kid growing up? Did you have any heroes? You know, when you were that teenager karting, was there anybody you thought, yeah, I want to be like them when I grow up?
So until I was a little bit older, I didn't really know that much about the car racing world, and I mostly had watched the Supercross, motocross stuff on TV. So I would say once I did finally kind of get more into watching the car racing side of things, one of the first drivers that I can think of that stands out for me was actually Helio Castroneves in the IndyCar series. He had like such a big personality, and he was so successful. Like, I just remember him being one of the first. And then Scott Dixon, once I kind of saw how well he performs like year after year after year, and that he just represents, I feel like, everyone that's in his corner in a very classy way. So I think those are kind of the two that stood out for me pretty quickly.
Yeah. And as you say, great role models as racing drivers and as people and as corporate partners and professional people. So yeah, you have great people to look up to.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think that you nailed it right on the head. Is just an all around, well rounded athlete, I think.
Yeah. Yep. Yep. So you're in Carrera Cup at the minute. Rolling forward with that in 2025. That's the plan, I presume.
We will see.
Oh,
2025 plans haven't been confirmed or announced yet. Hoping to kind of get a clear picture on what that will be here by the end of this month. So to be confirmed. But
to
we'll
be
see.
confirmed. But you're thinking that way, or moving onwards and upwards? I don't know. Don't brag anything out of you.
I don't know.
Don't give any secrets away.
We got to kind of see how we're going to see how this next month shapes up, and then I'll know a bit more.
Yeah, cool. The plan, you've been watching IMSA, you've been following Le Mans and all, we sort of touched on it. Do you have a vision maybe over the next 5 years, what you would like to do? Do you have a tick box? You've done the Nordschleife. Do you have boxes you want to tick around the world?
I mean, I would love to go back to the Nordschleife and run another race there. Maybe try the 24 at Spa or something like that as well. But I would really like, as maybe a next step at some point, would be to get into an LMP2 car. I think that is maybe a really sweet spot for me, because it combines like the sports car and the open wheel side of things, and I think that would be a pretty fun thing to be a part of. So we'll see what comes up here in the next year as far as opportunities, but definitely I want to stay, if I can, with the great partners and relationships that I've built. So it's going to be some considerations happening in the next month.
Yeah, lots of juggling to do. As you say, you've got partnerships and people you need and want to bring along with you. So yeah, I imagine it's very tricky to find those next steps.
Yes, yeah, got to keep everybody happy and go somewhere that is feasible.
Yep. Sounds like a plan. Got another question in from F1 Blag. I'm telling you, he's on fire tonight. He's not the only one in the questions, by the way, just in case you think he's the only person watching. But Blag's asking, are you competitive away from racing? Or some people get it all out of their system on the track, Are you the one racing the shopping cart against somebody else in the supermarket?
No, I feel like I feel like most racing drivers are definitely competitive, just like in every aspect of their life. And that is I am definitely a very competitive person in pretty much everything within reason. I mean, I'm not going to freak out if I lose a game of Monopoly or something like that, but I will be frustrated if I don't win.
You saying that it reminded me of Max Verstappen there this last weekend. I'm not going to freak out. It's not everything. And actually there's Georgie saying that you're like 99% of F1 fans this year. I think that means you weren't paying too much attention, but last weekend all of a sudden, I want to check this out.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I actually like going in and watching some of the tech talks and stuff more in the F1 TV app. Like that I really enjoy, and I do like watching the 30-minute recap, because I'll be honest, sometimes I watch the first few laps and I'm like, oh wow, this is great, and then I take a little nap in between, and then I just watch the end. Like that's usually how it goes.
Well, so my generation grew up with like 45-minute highlights. That's all there was years and years ago. Sort of back in the day, back like your dad's generation. We just that's all we had, and it's as much as I love it, I think you're probably right. There's a good 30-minute edit in most Formula One races.
Yeah, well, F1 TV always puts out the highlight in 30 minutes, or race one in 30 minutes or less or something.
Yeah, cool. And as you say, there's so much, obviously you're interested in the engineering side. And as you say, around the coverage nowadays, there's so much discussion and information made available to the public. It's fantastic how in-depth even just general coverage gets nowadays.
Yeah, it's very cool. And when you can have like multiple screens open and you can pull up like maybe a driver on board, and like sometimes they have like the pit stop windows displayed and everything else. So and then you feel more immersed in the experience. And I think the commentators do not get enough credit for how exciting they make something seem, even if it's not. Like, they are so
Are you saying it's boring, except the commentators make it sound exciting?
No, I'm not saying it's boring, but like obviously when you're in the car, like everybody thinks, oh wow, they're just like going around, but inside the car, it is absolutely insane.
Yeah.
But there may be something that doesn't appear as exciting, but the commentators get you excited about it. And I just think that they don't get enough credit for what they do.
And there's Black again saying, my theory as a long-time viewer is that F1 has always been boring. We just think it hasn't.
I think it always goes through phases, right? There's always phases where there's a driver and a team that is dominant, and then there's always a transition period where you're like, oh, maybe it's going to be different, or then another team emerges as the dominant one. So I think that if F1 goes in waves, there's exciting periods, and then there's definitely the eras of dominance.
Absolutely. You're in America now, based in America, and racing in the Carrera Cup there. Can you see yourself being mostly American based, or could you see a future moving back to Europe to do some things on a semi-permanent basis even?
Yeah, I would not be opposed to it at all. Going into something like in WEC or something else, like I would definitely be open to the idea. My boyfriend, we've been together for quite a long time, and he is French, so I don't think he would be opposed if we went back to Europe for a bit. So there's the opportunities are always flowing. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, definitely would not be opposed to it.
It sounds like an Alpine drive is all on the books, then maybe, we need to get an all-female team back at Le Mans, perhaps,
Well, wasn't there the Iron Dams this year?
Of course, Iron Dams, yes. I'm thinking way back in the day, but of course there's the Iron Dams, yes. Of course, yes. I forgot about them. Excellent. So the plans for 2025 as yet unestablished. What about the rest of this season? What have you got lined up for the rest of the Carrera Cup in this season? Have you a handful of races left?
So we have half of our season left. So we're only at the halfway point right now. We have 8 races left, 4 race weekends, and it should be pretty exciting. We, I'm sure probably a lot of you have seen maybe in the news that the team I've been racing for, MDK, has actually withdrawn all of their cars for the rest of the year in Carrera Cup season. So all of us drivers and crew and everybody are looking to make a pivot right now. And I hope to be able to announce our plans for the rest of the season very soon. But yeah, slight bump in the road.
Yes, these things are sent to try us. You're obviously you are positive, but you're hopeful that something's going to get sorted out.
Oh yeah, I'll be back in the series no matter what. We're just not sure under whose banner we will fly right now.
Very good. That's it's a terrible thing, and I suppose there's an opportunity there. There's so much talent within that team. There's just an opportunity for somebody with a checkbook to come in and make it happen effectively, because there's yourself and all that great talent all just ready to go.
Yes, we were actually leading the team's championship, so we're ready to
go. Oh goodness. Well, we wish you, of course, every luck in getting that together. Where can folks catch up with you? I was checking out your YouTube channel, which is fantastic, and some of your social media. Obviously, for everybody nowadays, that's really important. But it seems you really enjoy that stuff, or is it less of a chore than some of the other media stuff?
I am naturally introverted, and I'm obviously very engineering minded. So you can imagine that for me, social media was not my first choice. So, but it is necessary now for
necessary evil. Yep.
Yes, it is necessary right now. It helps create a lot of value, reach a lot of new people. I mean, back in the day, to be able to reach as many people as we do now by just putting out one post, that was pretty hard to do. So I appreciate the power of it and how awesome it is to be connected to so many. But if I had my way, I would definitely not have any social media, and I would just be somewhere in the wilderness with a dog. That would be my preference.
That sounds like a very good way to unwind. But of course, we urge everybody to check out the social media anyway, because it's a great way to connect with you, and connect with your racing.
Yeah, and it's really important for partnerships as well. The building that exposure for them through my channels is instrumental in helping me continue in my career. So yes, please, if you guys have a chance, please go check out my YouTube and any of my socials.
Yep, and our friend Black again saying that hopefully all of this media stuff, including this, isn't too draining.
You can train for anything, so you can get used to a lot of things, and it is fun when you get to talk to really enjoyable people. So that part isn't so draining, but yeah, it's always always a challenge, right, to make sure that you're putting your best foot forward.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. And you do corporate stuff or whatever. You've done a wee bit of commentary and punditry as well. Do you enjoy that? Talking about your passion? I suppose that's different to just having to be a face appearing somewhere, and
It's different. When I did like the pit lane reporting at the Mexico F1 race last year, and that was a very different thing from the other commentating that I've done before. I think I really like the chance when I get to be kind of the expert commentator in the booth, and I get to talk about what's going on track and like give my insights. I think that's pretty enjoyable. I'm definitely learning more how to, I guess, as a pit lane reporter, and like when you're kind of moving around, you're almost like you're being like a host, and you have to make everything exciting. And so that is definitely a new skill that I am learning.
Yeah, I guess there's a bit of journalism in there as well. When you're in the pit lane, it's like finding that story and getting the person and getting that sound bite.
Yeah, doing lots of research, having all these note cards, and you're like, what makes sense? What's authentic? What's coming right now? Like, what are they talking about in the main booth that I can plug into the story? And so it's a learning a new trade for sure.
Very good. And something you hope to do more of course, time allowing, aside from all this motor racing.
I wouldn't be opposed to it, but I definitely would prefer to be the one driving instead of the one commentating.
Absolutely. Well, here, is there anything you want to share with us today? Is there anywhere people can catch up with you, or any where can we, fingers crossed, see you racing next?
Next race will be Road America at the very beginning of August, the 1st through the 4th. And if you want to find out where I am at all times, you can check out my website, which is sabrecookracing.com. It has links to pretty much everything that you need to know, and you'll be able to connect with me and the community through there.
Fantastic. Well, here, you're obviously very, very busy, and we really appreciate your time out that you've taken to speak to us today, and we wish you continued success, and may the second half of the season spark back to life and be every bit as successful, if not more so, than the first half has been.
Thank you. Yeah, I appreciate that. We'll land on our feet.
I'm sure you will. I'm sure you personally, no matter what, Sabre, will land on your feet. Well, here, it has been fantastic speaking to you, and we wish you all the very best, and we hope to catch up with you again in the future.
Thanks so much, Colin. It was great talking to you.
You too. Thanks, Dan. Take care.